Did you know that you might be sabotaging your own creative process without knowing it? Yeah, actually, you might be. And sometimes this isn't even on purpose. Sometimes we're just filling ourselves with so much stuff. We're trying to learn more, we're trying to do more. But sometimes in the doing more, in the learning more about how to be creative or how to do something that we want to accomplish, sometimes we might be sabotaging ourselves. And believe it or not doing anything sometimes can be exactly what you need. Well, friends, if you've ever faced that, we have the solution for you today, because today I'm actually going to be sharing a discussion that I had with the amazing Naomi Sowell in today's episode. This is actually a continuation of last week's episode, which was on burnout, how to avoid burnout before it happens. We talked all about slow living and how to embrace slow living, especially in regards to social media, because today's world is so insanely loud. But in today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about some practical ways that you can embrace the quiet and how you can stop sabotaging yourself and your creativity. I am so excited for you to listen to this episode. If you have not listened to part 1, definitely listen to part 1. The links are going to be in the description, in the show notes. Either one, if you're listening on Spotify or if you are watching on YouTube, it's going to be in the description and you can access that podcast episode. I totally recommend that you listen to those before you even listen to this one. It's going to be so good though, and so I'm so excited for you to listen to it. Hi there, my name is Shira Rodriguez. I'm the girl behind Her Reading Life podcast, and I'm here to help you find life-changing books and read life-changing stories. I am honestly so passionate about helping people because truly I believe that books and stories have the power to change your life. And if this is your first time here, consider this your warm welcome to your home away from home, where you can feel like you're sitting across from me at a coffee shop and we're just sipping coffee or tea, whichever one is your thing, and just talking about books and writing and just enjoying writerly bookish company. Before we start, be sure to click the links in the description below where you can find the Novelists in November anthology, which includes 11 beautiful short stories that are all beautiful and fallish. And I promise you, if you love autumn and sweaters and that cozy candle vibe, you will absolutely love this collection, because these stories are just such wonderful, feel-good stories that really are an homage to novelists and the month of November, especially since November is NaNoWriMo. So if you want a book that can just curl up with during November and kind of inspire you to keep writing your novel, this is the book for you. In fact, actually, one of my stories is going to be published in this anthology, so I am so incredibly excited to see this book come into the world. You can pre-order it now by clicking the link below, as well as receive exclusive pre-order goodies, including an audiobook that I'm going to be reading and a couple other goodies I'm so excited to be able to share with you guys when you pre-order. Also follow me on Instagram if you love to see like daily life of a writer or book reviews, like short book reviews, to see what I'm reading. I always update my stories and my Instagram with all that sort of content, especially if you like aesthetic reels. I do plenty of those on my Instagram, so definitely follow me there if that's something that you enjoy. And if you would like to listen to this podcast on the go, definitely follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And yeah, if you want to listen to this on the go, maybe you can't watch it, but you really want to listen to it, you can absolutely listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of your favorite podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying this video content, definitely subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a single episode. I genuinely believe that everybody has their superpower. Maybe your creative superpower is in writing. Maybe your creative superpower is in visual arts. Maybe your creative superpower is working with film and photography. Maybe your creative superpower is something that you don't expect, like knitting or crocheting. Doing so many different kinds of art in the world. In fact, I think that there is an art even in the things that we don't expect. There's an art to science. There's an art to math. And there is one thing that will absolutely maximize your superpower as a creator, as a creative. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's discussion with Naomi Sowell. So without further ado, I will let you listen in on our conversation together. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I honestly think that was my favorite, the quietude thing, because it's so true. We live in
Yes.
such a noisy world, and I'm not talking necessarily about the noise, but I'm saying there's just so much stuff. There's an
Yeah.
overwhelming amount of everything. Absolutely everything. It's
Yes.
insane. And just having that time to be quiet and reflect or just hear our own thoughts, because I feel like they can sometimes even get drowned out by um,
Yes.
social media or TV, movies, podcasts, everything, you name it. It's just so
Yeah.
much that we're surrounded by.
Yeah, exactly. Um, that's been that's a really good point. Just like hearing our own thoughts, especially that's a good healing thing. That's just a good self-care thing. Um, and because it can be, like you said, if there's a lot of noise, it can be really hard to tell which voice is yours and which voice is someone else's that you may not
Hmm.
should be listening to. So another book that helped me with that is The Common Rule. This one's extremely practical, whereas The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry is much more like spiritual. There's definitely a ton of practical to it. Um, but this was like super practical, like down to just like daily and weekly habits. He
I
like
love that.
he breaks down 4 daily habits and 4 weekly habits. Which so I've been working on implementing those recently and they've been so good. But one chapter, because it was talking about curating media, um, and that chapter was probably my favorite because he talked about being in a bookstore and seeing like all these books and getting a little depressed for a moment because he realized how long, like if I lived the average lifetime, this is how much I read in a year, so this is probably how many books I could read before I die. So if I pick one book, I'm saying no to literally thousands of others. So just the importance of what voices you're listening to and what stories you're allowing in your life. That was probably my favorite chapter. And I won't spoil the whole thing, but he talked about curating your life around, or the stories that you're revolving your life around, in curating for beauty, curating for justice, and curating for community. So it's just a really beautiful chapter and really like clicked a lot of things for me that I was already like kind of there, but like to have verbiage to like talk about with people was really cool.
Yeah.
And then like at the end of the book, he just like reiterated curating a beautiful life. Like we were created to seek the beauty of God. Like it talks about like he quoted from Psalms. Um One thing I ask of the Lord, and that will I seek, to see the beauty of the Lord, and things like that. So like that's what we were created for. So and that goes back to creativity too, because if you're focusing on those things, that naturally cultivates creativity and cultivates rest and
Yeah.
a really fulfilling life in the long run. So
I love that. Oh my goodness. I wrote the book down, the name
yes.
title of the book. I will include it in the description because oh my goodness, I have the ruthless elimination of hurry and the common rule because I want to read those so bad now, especially the common
Yes.
rule because I'm kind of obsessed with just seeing beauty in the world and just finding the beauty in even in the little moments. It just makes me so happy. Um
Yes, exactly.
but yeah, exactly. And so, but actually, it was so crazy because this week, between our last call and this one, I actually did have like some quiet time. It was accidental, but I was out at a restaurant. I'd just finished having lunch with a friend of mine and I brought my computer, but for some reason my computer won't work if it's not connected. I got to change the battery or something. And I didn't have a plug near the place where I was sitting, so that I could work. And on top of that, my phone was dying, which is typical of me. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah. And so it was like it was surviving. It was on life support. So I just plugged it. I plugged it in, and I had to plug it in near like the bar area. And I was like maybe 3 feet away from like the bar area. I was on the table, but I couldn't actually use my phone and be at the table where I had all my stuff. So I just decided, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And the thought just came to me. I was like, well, what if I just do nothing for once? And I was like, why do I feel this pressure to always be productive, always be working? And I'm like, why is it so original to just think, okay, let me just do nothing. So I just stared out at the window, and it was so insane how many little details I noticed, how many stories like just came out to me, just kind of just were brought to my mind. Like I remember watching an older couple that they came in with like four yellow balloons. Um it was an older man and an older lady that they were coming like for a birthday party. They had their little gift bag and everything. And I was like, man, I wonder what stories behind them. Like, I wonder why they came. Are they celebrating for their granddaughter? Are they celebrating for their daughter? Are they celebrating with a friend? Why are they there? And I would just watch them, and I was like, wow, there's so many stories out there. And just it was so sweet to find so much creativity in the quietness, but I would never have had that if I had literally not been obliged to put my phone on the only place where they had a plug in that restaurant. And I literally could not reach it. I couldn't be on Instagram. I couldn't be doing productive things, which was really just busyness. And I just found it so beautiful that I was able to access that creative space. And I even did like a whole journal entry, like handwriting it, because I happen to have a journal in there that I hardly ever use. I should probably use it more. But exactly. And so I'm like, wow, that's just incredible. So, all that to say, it's so true. Just allowing a little bit of quietness in your life and just adopting a slower pace in life. It's something I'm still learning, but it's been so beneficial for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I feel like we often think that more is more, when truly, like, the opposite is true. The more intentionality we put into our work as opposed to busyness, the more fulfilling the results that we reap from life. Have you noticed at all? I'm just really curious that slowing down has helped you with your own writing and even your creativity. I know you talked a little bit about this with like just noticing little objects and then writing down something. I'd love to hear how it's helped like your own creative process.
Yes, it definitely has. Because I mean, like you gave a great example. Like when we're always on a screen, we're missing the world around us. And that's something that people still crave, even with AI and all the movies and video games. People do, like, at their core, they are drawn to the natural world. And that's why the travel industry booms all the time, is because people love going new places and exploring. um
Mm,
and the idea of it is very attractive to them. Now when they get on their vacation, they probably do still spend a lot of time on their phone, but the idea is still attractive to them because they know that's what we were created for.
mm,
So for my creativity, like, I and part of the noise that I had to shut off was a bit of creativity, but it was interesting because, like, when I scrolled Instagram, because now I have a scheduled time for it, and I usually, that was a thing I tried to do from the beginning, but sometimes so got distracted, and an hour later I'm like, holy crap, I need to go.
yep.
But I would just be seeing all these videos and stories, and it would just like really feed my brain with ideas. But if I don't give that a break, those ideas never bloom into something that's me, or kind of fully fledge out into something that can fly on its own. So, that, like, having a time to, like, absorb some information, but balancing it with that quiet where I'm taking a walk and don't have anything in my ears, so that I can hear the wind, hear the trees creaking, hear the
Mm,
birds, and just, like, really let my brain kind of process the ideas that are bouncing around in it, like, like ping pong balls or whatever. They're just bouncing around in there and they don't have a place to land if I'm like
yeah.
constantly throwing more balls in there. So, like, you need the balance of the quiet with also, inspiration for creativity. And yeah, like, people watching. I am a really bad people stalker. Usually I don't get caught, but still, like, I love watching people. Um, but I also, it's not just people now, like, I'm already very character centric with my stories because I am so attuned to people, but with writing contemporary stories, your world building still matters. And it's actually easier if you put the time into it because you're living in the world that you're writing about already, especially as a contemporary. With historical fiction, you have to do a little like time period research, but you're still able to like get a lot of sensory details from the real world.
Mhm.
Even sci-fi and fantasy, you know, you're getting inspiration from the real world is, you know, you're just kind of changing elements or whatever. But as a
Mhm.
contemporary writer, being present in the real world is super important for world building. When I started balancing out the quiet with, you know, generating ideas, not just was it like noticing what people wore, what they looked like, what their facial expressions were, what their body language was. It was also about the world. And so I it's become such a filter for me now. My friends catch me all the time. I'm like staring off into space, or I will stop in the middle of like a room, or if I'm sitting at a table, close my eyes and just listen to cut off
Yeah.
the eye sensory and focus on the hearing sensory.
Mhm.
But I'm literally logging information. And now I have to be careful with that terminology because we're not machines. We're not made to like run 24/7 and like always be logging information, which is why the quiet is so important. But I will literally just feel the information just circulating in my brain. And
Mhm.
if you're a fan of the show Sherlock, I really relate to how Sherlock's brain works because I will delete stuff, but not fully. Like you'll pull it out at the most
Yeah.
random times when you're like writing a story, or whatever. So I also have internal monologue a lot. So I will think of like a phrase and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm so using that in a story," and I will literally use it later. One of my strongest parts of my writing voice is my description, and that came from cultivating creativity and being aware and thinking of those more strong verbs and like adjectives and like what does this not just like visually look like, but what does it sound like? What does it feel like? What
Exactly.
does it smell like? Because like that was something that, you know, they teach us in author about like sensory details. You have 5 of them, so use them all. When you're because the eyesight
Yeah.
gets overused so much. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people totally like they don't talk about how the writing process, it's not just about what you what you're doing when you're typing, you know? It's
right,
about
it's a lifestyle.
experiencing the world. Exactly. You're constantly writing. You're constantly being on the lookout for beautiful things that will come up later in your writing. It's
Yes.
like anytime I see a sunset, I don't know why I'm so obsessed with sunsets. I'll be
Ah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, like the clouds were I don't know, were hiding behind we're hiding behind the sun or something like that or something crazy or just I love coming up with metaphors for sunsets in particular. I have
Same.
no idea why.
Yes.
Uh,
I love the term cotton candy skies.
yes. Oh my goodness, that's so pretty. I love it.
Yes, because it literally looks like cotton candy, the clouds, like the lavender and the pink. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, oh yeah, and me talking about a lifestyle, another book recommendation from Naomi. Adorning the Dark by Andrew Peterson.
I've
Um,
heard a lot about that one.
I that one I finished that one recently and it was so good. And I loved what he talked about we're all creative. Like creative has gone from an adjective to a noun now. Like, oh, I'm a
Mhm,
creative. It's my job description. But every single human being was created by a creator to be creative. Like, and it just
mhm,
looks different. It could for someone it could be cake decorating or interior designing or landscaping is its own form of art. Like it's literally everywhere, and most jobs have a little flavor of creativity in there. And
mhm,
so it's not just for writers or marketers, but like anybody, cultivating creativity is super important. It's like it's a part of the core of your humanity is creativity. And I think when we do it, in whatever way is life-giving to us, whatever that looks like, it's very, very soul satisfying. And so I'm a huge fan of like cultivating creativity, just whatever that looks like for you, whether you're a writer or marketer or not. It's just super important for just life.
Hey, friend, I'm just going to pause here for a second because if you have been listening to all the things that Naomi's been sharing, and I'm guessing that if you've gotten this far, you've been probably nodding to a couple of them too. Well, friend, what if I told you that you could indeed manage your social media stuff with peace, with sustainability, with that amazing feeling of not being afraid that your next post is going to plummet, not being afraid that you're not going to be able to make and answer all those comments in the time that you have, not feeling overwhelmed at night by how many people you haven't responded to. Instead, imagine that you can have peace at night, that you can go around your day with your phone in your purse or in your pocket and you don't even feel the urge to check the likes. Imagine if you could have all that. Imagine if, because you are so at peace, your body even feels so much better. And because your body feels so much better, you are so much happier. And not only that, your business is going so much better. Imagine if you could have all of those things. Well, guess what? You can. Because Naomi Sowell is actually creating a new coaching program that she's just opening up for clients. And so if you are interested in working with Naomi, all you have to do is click the link below. And friends, she has a first free consultation. Yep, I said that, free. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can embrace this peaceful lifestyle and make it your own, if you crave that ability to go down a street without checking your phone, without thinking about how your business relies on you and your social media and whether you'll have enough time or feel like you have enough bandwidth to do everything, Naomi is just the person for you and will help you be able to leverage social media in a way that you will love and that you will enjoy. So again, click that link in the description or in the show notes if you are interested in working with Naomi, and I will see you there. Exactly. Yeah. And I love what you said earlier too, like combining that with this, that so many times when we're so surrounded with so much noise, it's hard to be able to tell whose voice it is that you're listening
Yeah.
to. We don't even know what our voice sounds like sometimes because subconsciously we're imitating everybody else. And
Yes.
having that moment for quiet allows us to find our voice not only figuratively, but sometimes literally, especially in our writing.
Yes.
And actually, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you've been able to find your writing voice. Um, and how you've been focusing more on that, because I know that you were telling me that you've had some really exciting developments on your writing voice and your writing themes and just really capturing things that are making you super passionate.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this question. So for me, um, it took some counseling. Huge fan of counseling. Whether you need therapy or not, it's just great to like process things.
Mhm.
Because we all have a little bit of dysfunction in our lives. It's from being human. But for me, I did actually need professional help to just like process a lot of things. And I think for some reason that helped me because I already journal like a ton. Like I've journaled since I was 11. So I love journaling, which makes me a great counseling patient or whatever it's called. Because I'll do whatever you tell me to do because I journal all the time anyway. So that, and also another great book, The Emotion not the Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, and really just talking about self-awareness is a really overused like buzzword, and
Mhm.
self-help, self-care, but it is an early Christian church practice, because
Mhm.
to be aware of self is to be aware of God, which makes you more aware of yourself, which makes like it's a cycle of thinking. And for me, I was self-aware, but also not, because I tended to put way more emphasis on others, which is great, but then I was ignoring my own development and growth that needed to happen. when I was getting like critique and feedback from instructors and peers, especially in the author conservatory, like the potential for a strong writing voice was there. It just needed some work. And so I'm really excited. Like it's already showing in my short story. So I'm excited about this new novel, especially tackling grief, which is now a very, very close topic to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I would be able to tackle such a topic if I wasn't really working on being mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy. And all of that goes back
Right.
to living at a slower pace, um, which is like fighting my personality in a way, because I am like very type A, very high performance, like doer, go getter, whatever. That's me, which is great. But there's a way to balance that out, even if that's how, like, I was created that way. God made me that way. There's nothing wrong with me. And there's nothing wrong with you if you're that way. But so living at a slower pace of life doesn't mean you're like going against your personality. It's just really like honing it. Where that way, when I do put my nose to the grindstone and like start getting work done or whatever, it's from a much healthier place because I've given
Mm-hmm.
myself time to rest and refill my creative well, or enjoyed some good community or whatever. Like all of those pieces come into my writing voice. Like I love my siblings. They're great character and dialogue inspiration. But actually being with other people and like having a safe friend group and being involved in church and just going to the gym, like just being around people more has, I think, enhanced how I view characters too, in a way. And it also has like kind of satiated that community desire, because we writers are a different breed. And so like I miss my writer people and I cannot wait for conference season. But it's like giving me a place to like still be my interesting self, and like, but also be around people. And that's, part of the creative process, is because like we recreate what we're living when we write,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Even if you're writing fantasy or sci-fi, like usually some of your life experience is going to like seep in there because your writing voice is very personal. It's like you.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed that has changed a lot. And I mentioned like the world building stuff and descriptions, and counseling also has, would probably be the only way that I could talk about grief, like I mentioned, because it's such a sensitive
Mm-hmm.
topic. But I didn't have the life experience or sensitivity to tackle something like human trafficking, because yes, I've had trauma training. I was going to serve in a house for um trafficked girls, but that didn't pan out. So like I have the knowledge and the heart, which is great for advocating and serving, not so great for writing because I don't have the personal part of it, which is much needed when you're going to tackle something big like that. So,
Right.
being able to write about something that is very close to my heart, and is, there's a void of it in writing, and fiction
Yeah.
is a safe place to tackle these kinds of things, because we often do search when we're reading. We want to kind of glean something out of it, whether it's nonfiction or not. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening there, and I can't wait to get creating really soon, working on concepts right now as we're recording this. So yeah.
That's so exciting. And I think it's so true that grief is something that I feel like isn't explored as much as it could be. I've seen a couple of middle grade novels, but I feel like adult books in particular don't seem to embrace it as much as I think we should, because grief is something that everybody experiences, and it's
Yeah.
an amazing discussion like
Yes.
starter.
Yeah, and it was so funny. It was actually a viral Instagram reel that kind of started shifting my brain into that direction, and heart too. Like, cause it was already there, but like sometimes things, like I'm a slow cooker. It takes a while for things to like actually get out there. If I'm impulsive, that's usually not a good idea because the thought hasn't fully processed yet.
Yeah.
So, but it was, it was, since we're talking about both writing and marketing, it was a viral reel. I remember, so I love content creation. We've talked about this. I love creating reels. So video content and short form content is like my favorite thing to use creatively. I'm not really a graphic designer. I love iPhone photography, but I'm not like a professional, you know, but like anyone can do Instagram reels. And so I love them. And it's also a weird way for me to process things sometimes if I'm like creating an edit or something. It's kind of like a form of writing almost, or like sad music. You know, you want to listen to sad music on a bad day or whatever. In December, so like very recently after Daddy passed away, I created this reel from it wasn't even a trending sound. It was a piece of a Billie Eilish song, which is funny. I never listened to Billie Eilish, but this piece of the song worked with with the idea that was like simmering in my brain.
Yeah.
And it was the line of the song was can you hear me? I'm not coming home. And that line hit me so hard because I had a distinct feeling that when dad went into the hospital, he wasn't coming home. I can't explain why I felt that way, and it
Yeah.
was interesting of where I've kind of let him go, but then when it actually happened, I wasn't ready, and so it was interesting. But like that line of that song, so I created a reel with it, and I didn't really show my face. It was all about daddy, and I posted it, and I don't even think the caption was that long either, and it skyrocketed. Like today, I haven't looked at it recently, but it was like over 600K views.
Wow.
So that, you know, it's my most viral reel. And I was like reading the comments and, you know, looking at the views. And
Mhm.
I was like, and I did a follow up reel later. I was like, I, for some reason, like, you know, this, but to actually like see tangible proof of it, grief connects us
Mhm.
all. It doesn't matter your faith, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter your gender. Everyone connects with grief. And so that's when I kind of started thinking maybe this is what I need to be writing about, because human trafficking can be a very heavy subject for a lot of people where they don't want to talk about it, or
Mhm.
it can like inspire a very like passionate topic of like anti modern day slavery and, you know, very like activist, which
Yeah.
isn't my goal, or wasn't my goal with writing. Like it kind of was, but it was, my heart was always very like healing and hope. Like that was my heart with my writing. So with grief, that is very centered to grief, is healing
Mhm.
and hope. And like I mentioned, listening to sad music, I was like, we do that with stories too. Like, or I do. Like I love a darkish story that takes me on a journey that ends in the light, and I feel a little bit healed at the
Yes.
end. So kind of all of that, just kind of um and also having a rough first quarter of the year. But like kind of mulling on all of that, finally like Easter was a like a major like pivoting point for me this year. Again, like I mentioned, the first quarter of the year was really rough. Part of it was getting sick myself, feeling like all out of whack with work, and then
Yeah.
catching up on a bunch of work to like be able to rest more and things like that. So Easter, all of that was finally done,
Yeah.
and it was a really like healing weekend, great family time and friend time. And then I watched the sunrise at Daddy's grave and had the whole Easter Sunday just by myself, reading, taking, I was house sitting, so I took the dog on like 3 walks that day, and it was a gorgeous day. And that's when like I because again, I don't hear God's voice audibly, but it just like
Mhm.
hit me right here, like right in the gut. I need to write grief. Like this is what people need from my unique voice. This is going to really like work well together. And I texted my mentor about it, and she was like, "Yes." So that's kind of where I'm pivoting writing voice wise. And that kind of goes back into what we were talking about with the quiet. Like I had been mulling on all of that, and so giving myself a full day of by myself to just like read and do nothing, was able to have that space to finally get that idea and spark that creativity again, because I had been feeling kind of dry with just, you know, grief and everything. So it was really cool.
That's amazing. And what a beautiful story. I love that. That's incredible too. Like that it was based on like that you really started to realize how much it resonated with people when the
Yeah.
reel went viral, which is true because often when like things go viral, it's because somebody connected with it or a lot of somebody's connected with that feeling. And again, yeah, it's that same thing of like, okay, they're not coming home, and that hurts. And we all kind of know that feeling of just realizing in that moment, oh, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
after they pass away, just going back home and just realize feeling like they should be there and they're not. And oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Naomi, I am so thankful that you were able to come on and chat with me about, just adopting a slower pace of life and marketing, and even how this feeds into creativity. This was so beautiful. I enjoyed this so much. And now, before we finish this episode, I would love to ask you the final questions that we ask every guest that comes onto
Yes.
this podcast. This is our second time going over them, but I know you love these questions. So,
Yes. So the first is how I live, right? Live, give, and
yes.
repeat. Cool. I remembered. Yes. So how I live. So a lot, I think I was just starting like living at that slower pace when we had our first interview, like
Mhm.
consistently. Cause like, it takes a while to build consistency, especially like habit level stuff. Um,
Yes.
so a lot of that still applies. Reading, walking, hiking. It's finally getting warm enough to paddleboard. Definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
And spending a couple newer things. Oh, also of course, like who doesn't love a good movie and TV show to unwind?
Oh, yeah.
Um, and so a couple of newer things though is with this in-person community. The past 6 months maybe I've really been able to invest time and found a really safe in-person community at church. So a lot of that is we do a ton of group stuff throughout the week and also one-on-one. Like I've been trying to connect with people one-on-one too, so that's always been fun. Like one time me and this girl, we got coffee and we spent 3 hours in a bookstore, two different bookstores actually. So it was great. So like things like that is very life giving, and I love being able to do that in person, like right here at home. Like I don't have to wait till conference season to um do something with a friend or whatever. So that's been really great. Is God's brought me some really fun and safe people, and a few of them even love books, so that we can like connect over that and like still get that little bit of a creative kick right there. And then of course the gym too, like I mentioned, that's been incredible. And then how I give recently, um, God's been calling me back into missions, which has been amazing. I've missed it so much. I think I
Yeah.
mentioned this on our first interview, which was a while ago, but like from 2013 to 2018, so 6 summers in a row, we were in Eastern Europe. And so missions was always like a big part of my,
Mhm.
like who I was. But then, God needed to work, or and I needed to work on me a little bit. So now I'm in a much healthier place and I
Yeah.
feel that pull again, which makes me really excited. So I have a
So
couple
exciting.
one yes, one trip is confirmed with my church. We're going to Greece. And then another trip isn't confirmed yet, we'll see, but it's to the only international Christian writers conference. It's called Lit World. It happens every 3 years, and this year is the next one, and it's in Mexico. And that's to me, that's a very missional thing, but also like a writing thing too. So that's super exciting. We'll see if I get to go to that. But not just like international stuff and like writers conferences nationally, but also here locally. I've been
Mhm.
able to connect with missional stuff, and that's been really exciting. So yeah, a lot of like giving stuff revolves around like church and youth and friend group, things like that. Then repeating, I've mentioned a lot of habits that I love. Um, and so, yeah, for me, I'll just like reference the common rule again, those 4 daily habits and weekly habits. Obviously, like I said, I try to like change all the things at once, but I'm working on like doing one or two at a time.
Mhm.
Technically three, because one I was already like putting into place, which is the Sabbath. So, but like implementing those into my life, and also like flexibility because things are going to change. Like once conference season starts, it's going to get a little busy, which is outside of my
Mm-hmm.
control. But if I have these good like base habits of pausing 3 times a day just to like breathe or pray or like reset, the Sabbath, taking a day off my phone, which I already do. I also have started taking Saturdays, not completely off my phone, but not worrying about posting because most people, especially when it's spring and summer and sometimes the fall because of football, not a lot of people are on their phone and want to, they're not actively engaging. They might be passively like scrolling or whatever, but it's not the same. So I've started taking Saturday off, um, work mostly too. Um, but like having those baseline stuff to be able to repeat as best as possible, no matter where I am, if I'm on a
Mm-hmm.
house sit or if I'm at a conference or if I'm overseas, like just those types of things and making them as easily repeatable as possible.
I love that. And yes, you got them nailed down. You were on a
Yes.
roll, girl. I love that. Yeah. Honestly, yes, I love that so much. And I love how you were able to, because you've now been able to have a safe space to grow yourself and just to be able to, enjoy some rest for yourself. Now you're able to give to others in
Yes.
missions. You're able to give to others, even locally, and just take time with friends. I love that so, so much. And yes, the habits are so essential. I love that you, in fact, I remember that you said that you were trying to take like Saturdays off as well. And I remember when you posted that, I was like, wow, that's so cool. Somebody else is actually like gonna take a Saturday off because I was always like, I don't know, like sometimes I would post on Saturdays, sometimes not, but it was just comforting to be like, oh, she's doing great. And she's taking Saturday, so great that she's taking Saturday off. That's amazing. We don't have to work like that hard. Because
Yeah.
we think that more is more sometimes. And it was just so relieving to be like, oh, okay, we have permission to take a Saturday off.
Yes, like, and this is what I use this in my marketing messages, with, especially with like my coaching too. Is like, marketers deserve a healthy lifestyle too, guys. Like, it's not we're
Yeah,
not machines just because we work on a screen all the time. Like, we need a break too. And so, yeah, just like making living at a slower pace normal, because while it goes against the grain of culture, it goes in grain with literally how the universe was created.
yeah.
So it will feel a little off sometimes because you're like, man, everybody else is like doing all of this stuff and they're doing great. But at the same time, it'll feel so right because it's
Mhm.
how nature is supposed to work. So
Exactly. I love that. Naomi, I'd love to hear, where can our guests find you or get in touch with you? What are some of the best places?
yes. So social media, of course, we've talked about that quite a bit. I am on Instagram the most. And then you can also find me on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. I have an email list. All of those links will be in the description, or you can, also find them on Instagram. Instagram is probably the best place. Email will be soon getting more exciting because I'll be able to. I've been like working really slow on that creatively wise, but yeah, basically creating a place where people don't have to be on social media if they want to like connect with me and like hear fun stories, find fun things, lead dynamics, all those things. That's like been a kind of ongoing process for me. But to find like stay updated on like the email list, Instagram probably too. Websites are coming soon, possibly by the time this episode comes out, Lord willing. We'll see. If not, Instagram, you'll find out when they're ready. So yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Naomi, thank you so, so much for taking the time to come on and just be here again. It was so great to hear from you and connect with you again.
Yeah, this was amazing. Thank you.
All right. You have a wonderful day.
You too.
I always come back from a discussion with Naomi with so many book recommendations. It's not even funny. She has so many good books, and just wonderful insights on life and on productivity, especially productivity. She is exactly the person that you need to listen to if you're struggling with productivity and being able to decipher and determine whether you're actually being busy or productive. And she always inspires me to really embrace that slowness and to not be so hard on yourself, especially on social media, because I know for one, I can be super hard on myself. I have these insanely high expectations of myself in so many areas of life. And it's really funny because this episode, as I was editing it, I was facing a week that was really very tough, and I was realizing how much stress was really affecting me in my daily life. And it just so happens that I was supposed to edit this episode, and it turned out to be exactly what I needed at that moment. It was incredible. I started watching a whole bunch of videos on stress or like reducing stress and how to avoid burnout and things like that. And what Naomi was saying really was resonating with me and leading me to all these other incredible videos that were telling me the same thing. Having these high standards and being addicted to this high level of stress is just not healthy for you. And we all know that, yeah, but we just don't act like it. We genuinely accept it as if it's the norm to be stressed as a society, to be addicted to work, to be addicted to, as one of the videos I watched said, high cortisol levels of stress. And so it was just such a beautiful, refreshing balm to my soul to listen to this episode and just hear how these new steps that I'm taking in my life of protecting my quiet, of protecting my peace, as one of my best friends loves to say, is really the stepping stone to being more creative and being able to really focus on the things that matter and impact people in more ways because you're being creative. Because here's the thing, each one of us was created to be creative. God is a creative being. That's what he first introduces himself as. And the reason why he made us to be creative is not for ourselves. It's not for self-expression. It's to be able to bless the other person who needs our creativity. I mean, imagine if somebody had never invented this chair I'm sitting in right now. Imagine if nobody had invented that, okay? The desk chair. I would not be blessed by this chair. And friend, there are people who need your creativity, who need your story in exactly the stage of life that they are in. But your job is to write. Your job is to sit down, write, and yes, embrace the quiet. Allow more quiet into your life so that you can create that thing that is unique, that is beautiful, that is creative. Because friend, you have so much more creativity than you can even imagine. So friend, I hope that this encourages you and inspires you because you have so much potential and I am so proud of you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I am so excited to hear your thoughts. And as always, if you guys would like to see something in particular on the podcast, please let me know. I always love hearing your thoughts and your comments. And until next time, continue to live, give, and repeat. And I will see you next time.